Getting hit multiple times coming out of that bike section. More drivers coming to blows.
Greetings, race fans, and buckle up for Sim Racers Group Formula 3 racing on SMB. JR Gregory here with you on the call alongside my partner, Racing Ron Mons, and twisting our knobs and pushing our buttons this evening, our producer, Joshua Wilkie, and that is right, the Dream Team. Back together, getting back about 2 years to my first ever esports commentary experience with these two guys. So absolute pleasure to be back with you, Josh and Ron. But tonight's season finale of SRG F3 action returns to Okayama Circuit in Japan, opened in 1990 as a private facility for wealthy enthusiasts, then hosted the Japanese Grand Prix in 1994. and 1995, both dominated by Schumi, also past host to World Touring Car Championship, Asian Le Mans, and current host to Super Formula Lights, the GT World Challenge Asia, Porsche Carrera Cup, and many others. And as you might expect, the track record of 1:14.023 was set by Michael Schumacher in a Benetton F1 car back in 1994. Tonight's config 2.3 miles, 3.7 clicks, and 13 corners. And like many people around, when I joined up with iRacing, Okayama was free content and all over the rookie Miata schedule. I've got a little bit of PTSD from that, although it's fading. And this track has been rescanned since those early days, and I must admit to picking up a new respect for the complexities of the circuit, particularly some of the subtle elevation and camber changes. So looking forward to tonight's race. What do you think we're going to see out of these competitors tonight?
You know, I think we're actually going to see a little bit of overconfidence in a sense. As you just said, this track gets a lot of love on iRacing, talking about the MX-5s running around here. When I first learned how to set up the software that we have to make these broadcasts possible so we can see everything and all that jazz, it was actually an MX-5 race at Okayama where I first learned to set everything up. So this track is a special place in my heart, gets a lot of love on iRacing, and this track was actually the home of my first ever Road Series win in my iRacing driving career. So everybody gets this track, but not everybody loves it. So with everybody running around here, you could maybe see a little bit of overconfidence tonight. Everybody's saying, you know what, I've driven around this track 50,000 times before. I know my way around here, but sometimes that can end in disaster.
You know, that is an excellent point, Ron, and I think something else happens on these tracks where everybody has a million laps on them. It kind of cements in your bad habits, and it becomes hard to improve and to pick off those dents here and there. That is a story with me in Spa. I've got about 20,000 laps out there, and I cannot get any faster no matter how hard I try, because all of my poor lines and poor brake markers are completely ingrained. But in any event, open qualifying here winding down. We've had a 1 hour open qualifying session. You see the leaderboard right there, the usual suspects up top. Case is leading from Jason Green, from Josh Leslie, from Danush Paborji, and notably Edgar Lau, a new name here in Formula 3. He wrapped up his final Formula 4 session with Sim Racers Group last night in that finale, and decided to go ahead and jump into the finale here, the final race of the Formula 3 season, to get his feet wet here in F3. So that's what Edgar Lau is doing out here, and my goodness, already up into the top 5. So congratulations for Edgar. And as this qualifying session winds down, we're going to get underway here in a second, and you're not going to want to go far from your computer or television screen tonight, folks. We have 2 races here for you on Slow Motion Broadcasting: a 15-minute sprint, a brief warm-up, and that sprint, of course, will set the starting order for a 25-minute feature race. So plenty of action here, and we're going to wait for the iRacing universe to scroll here, and we'll have that starting grid up for you in one moment.
And now's the time that we break out the Canon WD-40 to get that graphic up here in a few moments. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this race, JR. I think it's going to be super, super fun. This track, even though it can be a little bit tricky and may see some falling anvils lurking around, I think this track puts on some very, very good racing. So I'm looking forward to it. We're going to have a lot of fun.
Yeah, I am as well. And as I said, a lot of subtleties here, a lot of camber changes, and a little bit of elevation change that I frankly didn't notice back in those rookie Miata days. But here is your starting grid. It's going to be Stephen Case lined up next to Jason Green in row 1. Then Josh Leslie, an F4 graduate from last season, lined up next to Danush Paborji. Then Edgar Lau, I mentioned before, next to De Silva. Alex Velasco will line up next to David Borden in row 4. Then it's Adrian Lopez next to Josh Corwin in row 5. Justin Snyder will line up next to Kalen Mikovits in row 6. They'll be followed by Daniel Levivi, lined up next to Jose Navas in 13 and 14. Then Adam Duvall next to Chris Wang. Aaron Van Wagner next to Jason Trantham. And Kolkaran Dillon will bring up the rear in P19. And looks like iRacing is going to force the start here in about 30 seconds. Looks like Lau, Velasco are holding up the show currently. So we're going to have those guys out here in a second. And as always, little hazardous here, Ron, off the start, ice cold tires, no traction control, no ABS on these cars. And you got to get them off the line, dash down that pit straight, and get them woed up for a deceptively difficult turn one.
Earlier on tonight here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, Mr. Wilkie and I had the privilege of covering the Extreme Motorsports Ferrari Road and Oval Challenge, running at this track with Ferrari Challenge cars. Different kettle of fish from these F3s, but the point remains the same, that first turn is absolutely brutal. But here we go, about to get a start.
Yeah, lights about to come up here, and already Josh Leslie has jumped the start. Leslie's race over before it begins after doing such a good job getting up into P3. But it is Case from Green, from Leslie, from Paborgi, and there's somebody turning there. That looks like Lopez, David Borden, and Velasco all taking a ride into the kitty litter there. I told you that turn one could be fraught with peril. You're seeing why right there.
Yeah, and that's such a shame for those drivers involved in that stack up, hang down to turn number one. It's such an awkward run as you head your way off into turn number one here on a standing start at Okayama, just because that start finish straightaway is long enough whereby you can build up a lot of speed that makes turn one a tricky, heavy braking zone, but it's also just close enough where the drivers are still packed in like sardines and can't spread out. You just have stack ups like that. Such a shame for those drivers to get involved in that incident early.
Yeah, they're definitely packed in tight there off the start, and a very difficult kind of late apex corner that you have to take with the following corner, turn two in mind, another difficult one. So Okayama, a lot more nuanced and complex than it looks on paper. And there's somebody else going around. That is Chris Wang, over rotating there, catching the inside barrier. He has lost his nose, and my goodness, Ron, you mentioned maybe a little overconfidence, maybe a little bit of over familiarity here getting in the way of the driver's performance, and we are seeing it now. And there goes Josh Leslie to do his drive-through penalty for jumping that start. So Leslie, after pedaling his ass off for an hour to put himself into P3, is going through the pits, and he's going to be DFLing it on exit.
And, you know, going off of that comment here, I think that came back to bite him on the rear end with that jumping it. It wasn't even a huge jump. It was just creaking over the line, and it got him. That is such a shame for him early on this race. He's dropped down. Lots of drivers running into the difficulties. The last moment we saw there was with Chris Wang. As let's take a look at this moment here from Josh Leslie. He just rolled up a little bit too much. He rolled probably, I would say probably a full wheel rotation up in front. Maybe could have just slipped the clutch a bit. That would have been unfortunate for him, as yeah, such a shame for him to pick up that black flag right off the drop of the green. It's a really demoralizing way for your race to start, but thankfully for him, that happened in the 15-minute long sprint instead of the 25-minute long race that we have coming on.
Yeah, too right. While Leslie's heat race may be over here, his night is not over at all. He's going to have plenty of chance to redeem himself. I like him maybe breaking up into the top 10 here. He's got plenty of time to do that, and he'll certainly have plenty of time to work his way back up once that 25-minute feature starts. But so frustrating for Leslie. I don't think it really matters how far you move before the lights come on. If you move a millimeter off of that starting box, I think you get dinged. Leslie getting dinged there.
Yeah, currently dealing with some technical issues, so we're continuing to see the action out there on the racetrack. Unfortunate for Josh Leslie. I mean, based off the speed that he showed on that first lap, he would have been, at the very least, within a strong shout of finishing on the podium, certainly inside the top 5. But that trundle down in pit lane is going to gut his race. He's all the way at the back, still slotted in P15 of the drivers out there on the racetrack. He's one of only a few that's on the racetrack still. There he is. We ride on board with him now, back to live time. Stephen Case still up at the front with Jason Green slotted in P2. Now, JR, you've been here in the broadcast booth all season long, so you can kind of speak more at length about the driver that Stephen Case is.
Woo, it's wild action going on right there, looking at Lebivy, and that is Corwin taking on Tyrone De Silva, going side by side in one of those tight Okayama corners where we normally don't see it. But 12 weeks in, these drivers very well familiar with each other, a lot of trust between these drivers, and both of them leaving space and making that work, and awesome stuff. And this is only the beginning, folks. Like I said, 2 races tonight, but back to your point, Ron, yeah, Stephen Case has absolutely dominated this one out of 11 prior races, he has won 10 of them. And that is 10 podiums out of 10 as well. The other race, he crashed out of Olton, but they've got drops, and he has an absolute stranglehold on the title. And another thing about Case is he is very generous with his time. He has got the incredible pace and racecraft, and he's always willing to share that with the other competitors here in Sim Racers Group. He puts together track guides, gives people tips and coaching in person and online as well. So Case, very, very generous with his time, helping other people kind of get up to his level. But so far this season, no one has really been close to him. You always see Jason Green kind of sniffing around. You see Paborgi sniffing around up there as well. But between outright pace and racecraft, nobody has been able to handle Stephen Case this season.
And I will say, considering this is a season finale, it's a bit of a reflection on the 2025 in the world of Sim Racers Group. It's been a fantastic year in the SRG world, and we've had the privilege of broadcasting pretty much all of the action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Started all the way back in January 1st of this year, starting the year off right with some SRG F4 action. Before the F3s even started, Stephen Case at that point was still the inter-alien in that category, the lone inter-alien in that series. And from being in the commentary booth for that first race to being in the production booth for the first F3 race here on SMB about a half a year ago now during the summer at Imola, I just love to see the Sim Racers Group world continue to grow. And here's one of the recent standout stars. It's Edgar Lau in the number 4 car now, having been in the production truck throughout the first half of the season over on the F4s. Really got to see Edgar Lau flex his muscles and join this series hot, but it's hot heading down into the hairpin. They came to blows, a light tap to himself. I believe that was Michaelwitz, and that's going to end in tears for the both of them.
Yeah, that is too bad. Mikovits pressing Lau there a little bit too hard. It appeared to me that both of those cars spit off some body panels. Here is another look at it, and just a little swerve there by Lau, and I might have to see that one more time slow to see if that constituted moving in the braking zone. But those drivers very, very close, packed in together, and unfortunate to see Lau. He was really pedaling there, and to work his way all the way up into P1 in his debut race here in Formula 3 at Okayama.
Yeah, one thing about these F3 cars is so easy for the damage to go on. I think there may have been a little bit of latency going on between those two drivers. It was a very light tap. I adore these cars. They were my first love on iRacing. I still absolutely adore them. But even then, knowing how sensitive these cars can be to contact causing damage, that definitely looked a bit touch and go. So I wonder if there was a little bit of like connection issues that kind of led to iRacing registering that as being a harder hit than it was. But regardless of the case, it's unfortunate for Edgar Lau, missing a rear wing, going to have to come in to repair that damage. And in these 15-minute long races, a pit stop is pretty much as close as you can get to a game ender without being completely out of it.
Yeah, and Lau getting a taste here of damage. He drove last night for the last time in Formula 4 where damage is off. So it is a new world here for Lau and others who make that jump from F3 up into F4. And it's a good point about the net code there, Ron, but the counterpoint is, you know that net code exists, you know it's a thing, and if you're driving that close with somebody else, you're always taking a risk that the net code monster is going to reach out and grab a part off of your car, as we saw, I think, happen to both of those cars. Looked like Lau lost some rear body work, and Mikovits lost his nose. So nobody won in that one, although somehow, I got to say, Mikovits is still out there with no front wing, and you saw what happened with Lau's car. Once it lost the rear wing, became undrivable. He pitted immediately. Oh, and there is Mikovits, and yeah, it looks like iRacing might have faked me out. Pretty sure I saw a nose flying out of that wreckage, but it reappeared. So Mikovits getting away with that one.
A little bit surprised that he was able to get out of that incident with not a lot of damage. I think he did have to slow up, though, so certainly some lost time in that incident, he may have to feel the pressure from Joshua Corwin soon. But I think Joshua Corwin is feeling the pressure more so from Tyrone Da Silva than he's applying to Michaelwitz. May have a battle going on for that final spot inside the top 5. But this battle, if it starts to flare up, it could very easy and very quickly turn into more than a 2-car fight. You have to keep an eye on the likes of Daniel Lebevi and Justin Snyder right behind. It's a pack of cars that we have in this fight, and really all it needs is Joshua Corwin and Tyrone Da Silva to go side by side for a couple of turns to bring in the likes of Lebevi and Snyder, and then you've got a 4-car train of F3s battling for a couple of spots with not a lot of racing left to go.
Yeah, with about 6 minutes remaining, a little surprising the intervals that we're seeing on track right now. It looks like the first 5 cars covered by 10 seconds, and we usually see a lot tighter pack up in the front in these races. But again, you know, Okayama, a bit of a wild card for all the reasons that we already touched on, and turning into a Stephen Case track day up front. Case with a gaudy 1.5 second gap back to Green. Green also enjoying 2 seconds back to Poborji, and Poborji almost 5 seconds to Michaelwitz behind. So you see it right there. All those white numbers mean all of those intervals are in excess of 1 second. So not a lot of action going on right now, with the exception of that race for P5, which is Corwin from Da Silva, from Lebevi, from Snyder, and even those are in the yellow, close to 1 second gap. So turning into a little bit of a lapping day right here in the heat race.
Yeah, I think everybody, though, still is learning the ropes around this track, because as much as everybody has a lot of experience running around here, this track feels rather temperamental, and this car can be a little bit temperamental as well. If the conditions change, which they can very easily do here, you're going to find yourself having a whole different kettle of fish to try and handle and get into that tank before one of them swims out, ends up on your carpet, and then you're going to be stuck with a cleaning bill. Looking at the information surrounding the weather here, we are running kind of early on into the AM, about 9:23 AM in Sim. 71 degrees Fahrenheit as that current ambient temperature. Track temps kind of in that sweet spot of about 81. I think a lot of these drivers are feeling confident grip-wise, but they just need to get that confidence up. You know, you could have like the red carpet rolled out in front of you, but sometimes you're gonna dip your toes in the water before you really go cannonball in. It's like when you go to a pool for a first time. You may know that that water is absolutely perfect. You may know what temperature it is, but you always want to dip your toes into that pool first. I feel like that's what these racers do in these first races. Just try and build up that level of comfort before they go for the cannonball attempt in the second.
Yeah, to your right, Ron. Very good point. And this is one of those tracks, again, a little more complicated than it looks, requires a great deal of precision and a decent amount of power in these cars, but you still don't want to overslow. You want to keep that momentum up, keep the speed across the apex, and one of the keys in these F3 cars is timing of throttle application. You want to get the hammer down as early as possible, but if you get it down too early, you're going to over-rotate right off the track. We've seen only one of those, to my knowledge, so far. So starting off pretty clean here with, let's see, about 2.5 minutes remaining in the heat today.
Yeah, I will say one thing as well, kind of talking about this racetrack and the nature of it. Despite the fact that it did host Formula One twice back in the mid 90s in 94 and 95, this track it doesn't feel like a modern Grand Prix circuit. That's because it isn't. It's a little bit narrow at some points in time, and there are some bumps around here that can really affect the way that you're driving. Now, I mentioned this right before we grabbed the green flag here in this race about how earlier on today here on Slow Motion Broadcasting we were covering Ferrari Challenge action here at this track, and I was seeing some bumps that I've never really seen affect cars too much. I've been seeing it a bit more here at Okayama. Drivers heading off through the likes of turn number 2, hitting a bump and just getting speared off the track as a result of that. It being an open wheel car, I think those bumps may affect these cars a little bit more. So keep an eye on the bumps and the undulations around this racetrack. We could very well have some of these racers feel the burn the hard way.
Yeah, we absolutely could. And with the new scan, 3D curbs, of course, were added here to Okayama. So there may be some danger zones, particularly in the transition between that red and white stripe curb and the green pavement to the outside. That transition was probably smooth in the first can be very hazardous now. And with the 3D curves, you can catch a corner, kind of corner hook a tire in those spots, and would definitely throw these F3 cars for a loop. But time winding down here, and not a lot going on in terms of changing positions. It is Case from green from Poborji, and shout out to Kalen Mikovits, who is up 8 positions, sitting in P4 right now. So have a couple of hard chargers, some of them, of course, taking advantage of some incidents early on, but you know that Mikovits had to get some work done to get those 8 positions in the first 14 minutes here.
Yeah, really putting his nose to the grindstone in the early stages and staying out of harm's way. Despite that incident with himself and Edgar Lau, it's been a smooth drive for him in that number 76 car. So keep an eye on what he can maybe do in this second race that we have coming up. We'll have to see how the other field lines up for that one, but I have a feeling it's going to be another fantastic race here from this season. The battle between Tyrone De Silva and Daniel Labibi has really cooled off, as I think the gaps are starting to settle down. I think this may be one here, though, with Leslie and Wagner. Leslie coming back from that penalty.
Yeah, Leslie's still working on that recovery drive. Oh, my goodness. Squeaks it down the inside there. That is turn 5, the hairpin coming off the back straight. Oh, and my goodness, Van Wagner not laying down for that, still fighting back. But yeah, you tend to see some dives there into turn 5, that hairpin, and Leslie working on that recovery drive, trying to get his way back from that jump start and drive through. I called him a possibility for the top 10. Oh, and there goes Van Wagner, pushing a little too hard to try to take it back to Leslie, and Van Wagner, off he goes. That is going to drop him, and Leslie was going to hang on to that P11. And by the way, while we were talking there, the checker was out, and Stephen Case won that one by a mile. It's Case from green, from Poborji, from Mikovits, from Corwin, as the rest of the cars come through. That will be the starting order for the future race, which will take place here after about a 3-minute warm-up. So we'll go through. Oh, and here's that move. Oh my goodness, great job on the brakes, and Van Wagner looking a little salty about that one, Ron. You see him banging wheels, elbows out, and wanting to get that position back, but eventually maybe overcooks the tires a little bit with the red mist influencing his actions, trying to reel Leslie back in, and eventually loops it. But some great fighting right there as Leslie pushes his way back up into P11. So as we get our warm-up underway, everything going okay there in the production facility, Joshy? Okay, everything's looking smooth. Okay, had a couple of rough spots there at the beginning, but we're going to have your individual and team points here. And I'll go ahead and, spoiler alert, Stephen Case has won this one by a mile. Could have probably parked it back in November and still come away with the championship. Such has been his dominance. But going to go ahead and now you're seeing behind the curtain here. As we unplug you from the Matrix, here's what's really going on. We're going to take a look.
Give me a moment here.
Take a look at those points in just a second.
I was gonna say, if push comes to shove, I do have an old Ron Mons broadcasting prop here. Oh, there we go. I didn't have to break out the harmonica. We're good.
Well, there it is. And Stephen Case, as you can see, 130 points almost in P1, has absolutely dominated this season. And as I said, he's generous with his time to try to help folks catch up with him. But so far, he is safe there in P1. He's going to be followed by Dinesh Poborji, and Jason Green will round out the podium. And pretty tight gap there between Green and Poborji. I think Green has a crack at that P2, depending on what happens tonight. Then it's Bali, Corwin, Eggert, Cotcher, De Silva, Lopez, and Jose Navas rounding out the top 10. And a couple tight intervals there, 2 points between Cotcher and De Silva, a couple other tight intervals. So folks have shown up here for the season finale trying to make some moves, and there are definitely some folks with some opportunities. We've got team points here as well, with any luck. And yeah, there we go. So the L10 Racing Team up front, that is Stephen Case and Van Wagner, again with a stranglehold, 70 points on P1. JGJS is Green and Snyder in P2. Dad Tax Racing Team actually Not sure that's correct. I had them in P3, up 1 this week and up 2 from last week. So Dad Tax Racing Team on a big charge down the stretch here. And then we have, who's my teammate? That is Paborgi and Dylan, and then Team Labubu is Bali and Daniel Labivy. And I'll let you go through the rest of those on your own. But yeah, pretty fun here, Ron. We have 2-man teams to kind of spice up the competition, give you a teammate to cheer for and support here in F3, which has been a nice, fun addition.
Yeah, we always love to kind of cover those teams, and whenever they may form up, I'm actually going to kind of break the fourth wall broadcasting-wise. There's a different series that I covered on a different network that you were a driver in, JR, and like in the early stages of that season, you actually had one of your rivals become teammates with you, and just to give us a little bit more to talk about over on that championship. So I always love these teams forming, as the checkered flag has now fallen in warm-up, and we'll be able to get that starting grid for race number 2 loaded here in a couple of moments to get this second 25-man long race up and rolling. If anything's to go by after the first race, I think this may be a big test for these racers.
Yeah, it absolutely will, and we'll talk about tire wear, which I think is going to play a role down the stretch here once we get underway. But there is your starting grid and the results from the heat race. That is Stephen Case next to Jason Green up front. Paborgi will line up next to Mikovits in P4. So Kalen getting some work done out here. Very good showing in that initial race. Then Corwin will line up next to De Silva in row 3. Labibby next to Justin Snyder. Novice will line up next to Adam Duvall in row 5. Then it's Josh Leslie, who fought his way after that drive-through all the way back up to P11 next to Aaron Van Wagner. That is your row 6. Then Dylan will line up next to Lopez. Chris Wang will line up next to Edgar Lau. Keep an eye on him. He's going to be in a target-rich environment back there in P16. He will definitely be making a charge through the field. Then it's David Borden next to Trantham and Velasco bringing up the rear, and we are underway. It's Case from Green from Paborgi. Corwin has slipped through past Mikovits, so Mikovits has already lost a position. Very clean start here so far. Have avoided some of the problems that plague the heat race, and we're underway for 25 minutes of racing action. And I alluded to it before, Ron, tire wear is going to be a thing here. I think the Okayama circuit very, very hard on fronts, and with about 5 to 10 minutes remaining in this one, the folks who did not take care of their front tires are going to be exposed. They're not going to be able to turn in. They're not going to be able to get their cars woed up for corners and wash out on entry. So tire wear definitely, and tire management definitely a big strategic factor for these Formula 3 cars.
Yeah, these drivers will have to worry about that, as we're pretty much in prime conditions for these competitors as well. Track temp still looking pretty all right to these competitors. Gonna be feeling the grip, maybe a bit too much grip, and maybe that grip is going to fall away in the blink of an eye as we nearly see it coming together right in front of Justin Snyder. He's following through. I believe that may have been, I'm looking through, I think that was Labivy right in front that nearly ran into the back of somebody right in front of him, and we actually have a driver coming down pit lane. We'll say it has not been fully clean for a start, as some drama went down involving Jason Trantham. I think there was a coming together as they started, because I saw 2 drivers coming together right there in the back of shot once we got the race back up and rolling. So I think Trantham, and it may have been Alex Velasco involved in that in the 777 car as well, because both those cars were at the back right towards the start.
And De Silva now rolling into the pits, down 12 positions from the start. So something happened to De Silva. We'll go back and try to see what knocked him down from P6 all the way to P18. So De Silva, not the start that he wanted. And here we are riding along with Josh Leslie. Leslie has already picked up 2 positions. Remember, he was 3rd qualifier for the heat race, had that penalty jump start, and he is on fire right now, trying to make up those positions. And if he gets this one done, that is Novice there he is fighting with is going to have the inside line on a couple of consecutive corners. Novice will have the inside line on or no, they'll go back into go back nose to tail. So Novice able to hold off Leslie there temporarily, but Leslie, as I said, already up 2 positions and looking to make a charge. Plenty of time to do it.
Yeah, there's a different dynamic in these second races here. Considering you've got an extra 10 minutes, may not seem like a lot. There's not a lot of things that you can do in 10 minutes nowadays. Some drives that people go on to the grocery store aren't even 10 minutes long. They're usually a little bit longer, even without traffic. There's not a lot of things you can do in 10 minutes, but on a racetrack, 10 minutes is an eternity. So these racers gotta use that opportunity to either be able to go for some more moves or just take the pressure off themselves so they don't have to go for the moves at all times. Let's take a look though at the drama that went on with Jason Trantham. Oh, that was contact right off the line, and that was the 11 car that he piled right into. That was Edgar Lau.
Yeah, then here it is from Trantham. See, Lau not getting his car off the line here. So Trantham sees the light. Lau doesn't move, drives over him. And who is that? Somebody else paying the price for that as well. So Lau looking good early on and having problems in his debut. It looked like he was going to have a strong debut here, but the wheels kind of falling off for Edgar.
Yeah, that was a very bizarre moment. I know that restart, the start of the race, I should say, the start of race number 2, was rather abrupt and quick, but even then, that is, I wonder, does he have a manual clutch? I mean, there are many things that he can do in iRacing to kind of help you along, even if your car doesn't have any driving aids, like a Formula 3 car, like any Formula car. You can configure to have anti-stall turned off. Oh. Yeah, I just don't think he was in gear. I was wondering whether or not there's a stall going on there, because I know sometimes I've fiddled with having the anti-stall clutch assist turned off, and sometimes I've learned the hard way what it's like to try and leave the line quickly. I think he was just stuck in neutral.
Yeah, interesting shot there. You could see the rev counter there, the warning lights on his dash completely pinned. So the engine was spinning, and he just didn't get it in gear and get it moving. So tough start for Lau, who really needed to do well to make a recovery here in the second race, and not working for him. And here is a little fight here. That is Lebivy with Justin Snyder fighting with him. Those guys drive together pretty often, and Josh Leslie is going to take advantage of that. Looks like Novice may have hesitated a little bit when he saw the fight going on ahead of him, and Leslie will go up into P8. That is +3 for Leslie as he continues his quest to get back into that podium position that he lost in the heat.
Man, this is a full-on train of race cars as we take a look at a replay to see Josh Leslie really starting to squabble up. It was 2x2 for Formula 3s as they headed their way downtown to turn number 5. Leslie in that double 5 car, the 55, nearly coming to blows with the 4 on multiple occasions. Bit of a lockup as well as he had his way into the downhill left-hander of turn number 6. And he was able to keep that car going in a straight line. But man, this train of cars, looking through, that's about 7 cars strong. The last time I saw something this feisty was a time that I'd been to a jalapeno and got my tongue stuck to an ice pack shortly afterwards.
Yeah, and that is quite a train we've got going. And ladies and gentlemen, Ron Mons, master of the metaphor, sultan of the simile. Yeah, but yeah, that is a fight for P6. It is Snyder from Lebivy, from Leslie, from Novice, from Duvall, from Lopez. And my goodness, that is 6 cars covered by about 2.5 seconds. So much tighter fighting going on. And here's Leslie making another move now. Leslie gets through Lebivy almost. Can he make it stick? He's going to have the outside line here into a couple of consecutive left-handers. And Lebivy getting away. Oof! And oh my goodness, Leslie kind of checking up in the middle of that corner. Novice ran into him from behind. Looks like Novice picked up some damage. Duvall involved in that one as well. Duvall may have been damaged. You see Duvall with no nose, and that is Novice, and that is the result, folks. These cars, you cannot drive them through the paddock with no rear wing or they'll spin, and Novice experiencing that now.
Yeah, these F3 cars very aero sensitive. Any damage, even on the front wing, you can kind of see it on the front of Jose Navas's car. We're going to ignore the fact that the rear wing gone, broke it off the car and about 1,000 feet behind him when that incident took place when he spun off down into turn number 8. But the front wing damage that he had on that car, that's enough to wreck your race. I've driven these cars enough. A small little tap can end in disaster as that nearly ended the exact same way with David Borden, Christopher Wang, and Kukuran Dillon right behind. This three-car battle really getting feisty. I said this earlier on in the broadcast during race number 1, how everybody was going to treat that first race as kind of the opportunity to dip their toes into the pool and test the temperature of that water. Well, that water has been tested, and I think everybody's realizing that it's hot, as that right there was nearly a track blocker heading off. That was Edgar Lau with a rear lockup. Very easy to do in these F3s, and sympathy spin right in front of him.
Yeah, very wild stuff right there. And if iRacing had added fluid contamination to the track, which I'm sure is right down the road, I would have said that there was some fluid right there, the way both of those cars snapped. And I'm going to go ahead and invoke my former partner in F3, Charles Boshell, who had a theory that that is caused by rear lockup on downshift going into a slower corner, because we've seen that happen a few times and not really had a good explanation for it. And that may just be grabbing gears too quickly when the car's not ready. That rear diff locks up and around she goes. So crazy stuff right there. And these F3 cars feel pretty good, feel pretty hooked up, but every now and then they can do something like that unexpected. Even an alien couldn't have caught that one.
Oh, as that's a moment for Christopher Wang. He runs wide off through turn number 2, and he will lose that on that spot. So we take a look at a replay to see David Borden and a dive that he went off into turn number 1. That was himself and the number 24 of Kukuran Dillon that he went for the move on. And that's a swaparoo that has allowed David Borden to break his way up into the top 10. But Christopher Wang still right there within striking distance. Will he go for a move? Not close enough as they head their way into turn number 5. But I'm going to say this, and Charles is an absolutely amazing commentator, fantastic color commentator for us lead guys to have, because he knows a lot of stuff about iRacing, knows a lot of stuff about racing, period. He knows wheel, to invoke a little bit of Gen Z terminology. But I think Charles really hits a nail on the head, and it's experience that I've had in these F3 cars as well. Probably the car that I've driven the most on iRacing throughout my entire iRacing career. And okay, there's a reason why I'm behind the microphone instead of behind the wheel more often than not. I have an almost impressive ability to pretty much flip anything that you put me in. One time, I was driving the F3 car at the Charlotte Roval, heading onto the backstretch chicane with some killer sausage curbs on the inside of that track. They have speed bumps on the inside, so you can't just flat out drive into the side of somebody. And I was heading down into that chicane, downshifting a little bit too severely. Shifter cart mine. I'm thinking, oh yeah, engine braking. Let's just destroy the gearbox. Well, I destroyed the gearbox, locked the rear axle, spun down to the inside, hit those curbs, and flipped my car about 2.5 times heading into that back straight chicane at the Charlotte Roval. So I can confirm that the rear lock can be rather abrupt in these F3 cars.
Well, there you go. And looks like Trantham has just parked it, and not sure what was going on with him, but Trantham looks like he may have retired, now showing 2 stops in the pits here on a race that doesn't require any pit stops at all. And here is a look at Stephen Case. We have not forgotten about our individual and team champion here in Formula 3. There is Case, Green, and Poborgi, and the 3 Musketeers up front have shared the podium probably in half of these races so far. So no surprises seeing these 3 up front, but some healthy gaps in between, and unfortunate that can't see a little bit more dicing. We've seen both Green and Poborgi take it to Case there, and here is Edgar Lau getting through Dillon. And Lau really wanting to make something happen here. His F3 debut here showing promise early, and wheels kind of falling off in both of these races. Lau trying to salvage something here, but that move is going to get him up into P13. Next in front of him, Alex Velasco got about a half second ahead to Alex.
And one thing I will say, kind of talking about the race and the unfortunate incidents that Edgar Lau has been involved in thus far, I'm keeping my fingers crossed that he doesn't beat himself up too much about this debut night here in these F3s, because based off the speed and performances that he put on in the Formula 4s, he should, I think he's going to be a very good driver in F3s come time for season 1 of 2026. In the F4s, he's been very enjoyable to watch, both as a commentator and a producer. Getting to produce the first half of that season, got to see him have some dominating wins. As a commentator as well, just seeing that go on, he puts on some very good drives. And one thing that you could say about a lot of drivers in Sim Racers group competition, and JR, you've gotten the opportunity to know some of these guys even on a personal level. In fact, they always bring the thunder. They're consummate racers, and they give us no shortage of storylines to talk about here on the broadcast booth, and Edgar Lau is one of those racers. Really want to see what he can do next season here in these F3s.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's good money on Lau certainly being a top 5 finisher here in F3 next season. Lau new to sim racing, believe it or not. His race experience is on the real track and is extensive. So he's taken his skills from the real race course into the sim and being very, very successful with not a lot of seat time. You see Velasco washing out there, very easy to do right there. Another one of those corners that is harder than it looks. Lau taking advantage. Lau with the run. Lau's going to have the inside entry into turn 5 and gets that one done easily. And whoop, Velasco with the quick over-under. Not so fast, Edgar, but Edgar gets it back. Some great dicing going on up here between Velasco, the F3 veteran, and Lau. And Velasco still not giving up. Is going to have a peek down the inside of this next left-hander. Lau will have the inside line into the tight right that follows, and some great clean racing here at Okayama.
I think in that battle is very much so advantage Edgar Lau as we take a look at the replay to see this from Velasco's perspective. You can see him trying to go for the cutback as they had their way off through the hairpin at turn 5, nearly cleared him completely, but Edgar Lau going for the dive once again was able to make it work. I will say though, looking at the front of Alex Velasco's car, you can see some damage on the front wing of that. If we can take a look from a kind of a frontal shot, you can see a little bit of tweaking out. Now, I think you can kind of see it a little bit better from the outboard shots, because you can kind of see one side to the other. There you can see it's from our left side looking at it, but it will be the right side of the wing from the driver's perspective. There's some times where from the cockpit view, at least from how I usually have it configured on my iRacing, you can see that front wing just peeking out a little bit. And whenever that's the case, when you can see a little bit of carbon sticking out, that's the sign that the wing has been damaged, and that's a sign that your pace is, for lack of any better terminology, it's a sound effect, but I think it really does it well. The pace just goes in the car, and I think we're kind of seeing that from Velasco. After that move from Lau a matter of 1 lap ago, that gap is now north of a second, so I think that front wing damage is really affecting his pace.
Yeah, these cars quite aero sensitive. A couple of long straights there, and pretty sweet move over under move by Velasco there with the F3 veteran against the rookie Lau, and really, really good to see these drivers dicing it up. And here is another look. Lau with the dive, Velasco with the switchback, almost gets it done. And somehow Lau maybe a little bit braver on the brakes into that next left-hander. That left-hander tough. There is a little bit of a rise right there. The car lightens up right where you're trying to get it to rotate through that left-hander. But you see the fight going on here, and my goodness, Ron, this is why we watch Sim Racers Group Formula Racing. This is why we love commentating on it. Great racing up and down the grid, no matter what the position from this fantastic group of racers.
And even though we are getting into the added distance for this second race, the final 10 minutes, and things have spread out, as it really looks like David Bourne and Christopher Wang are the only drivers that are currently covered by less than a second. It's just cool seeing the F3 cars get a little bit of love. These cars are on the older end on iRacing. This generation of Formula 3 machine, it started off in 2012, kind of in the midst of the junior Formula ladder in Europe kind of reinventing itself. You had the unfortunate demise of the Formula Renault 3.5 series a little bit later on that decade. Unfortunately, the F3.5 car has gone away. The dodo bird from the officials has been replaced by the Super Formula Lights car, if my memory serves me correctly. It was Adam Duvall with the spin coming out of turn number 7. Unfortunate moment for him. And we're hearing from the production truck, may have been a bad rejoin here. We'll wait to see. Looks like he's been doing all right. Okay, so Adam Duvall gonna get away with that virtually harm-free. I was worried that there may have been a little bit of drama considering it was a number 13 car, and that's usually a bad omen for some bad luck, but no, keeps it going in a straight line as Jose Navas doesn't with a spin, dipping it off into the gravel through turn number 4 in the number 4 car. Fitting, not really. He goes for a spin anyways. But no, these F3 cars, they've been timeless on iRacing. I first bought them probably in my first year on the service back in 2020, and although they aren't used in real life anymore, they've been phased out for real life F3 competition with now 2 generations of FIA F3 machinery in what used to be GP3. They still get a lot of love on iRacing and have some good official series representation as well. I think these cars are pretty darn timeless.
Yeah, and they're definitely fun to get out here and have really kind of opened my eyes about how a race car feels. I'm a big GT3 driver, as you see Case with a little wiggle there. And I told you folks, the witching hour is now with about 10 minutes or less remaining in the session, in this 25-minute session. That is enough to get to the end of the useful life of these tires, and you'll start seeing those kinds of errors. Case getting away with one there, still sitting easily in P2 with about a 2.5 second gap back to Jason Green. But yeah, the witching hour is underway, so keep an eye out for signs and signals of people who have not respected their tires in the early part of the race, and their tires are not going to respect them down the stretch.
Yeah, everybody who's had the sliding, either with the front or the rear, they're not going to have a good time at the end of this race as Edgar Lau nearly has his race end in the gravel trap at the end of turn number 5. Himself and Chris Wang squabble up into that hairpin, and it nearly ended in catastrophe. Lau with a bit of a lockup. Wang had to go deep. I think he was going to go deep anyways. That could have ended in disaster as we take a look at these 2 racers. Then the battle and the dive from Lau. He was actually the first of the drivers to go on the brakes, as you can see that car of Wang jump up in front as soon as they dived into the brakes. But Lau able to keep the momentum rolling. Bit of a lockup though. So getting back to the discussion about the tires, I think all 4 of the corners on this race car are going to have some trouble. We're going to have drivers with front drivers falling off and rear tires falling off as well.
Yeah, and as I said in the opener, this track, very, very tough on fronts, and you saw it right there as Lau unable to get it woed up, kind of washing out of the entry of that corner, and that's just what I told you to look for as this witching hour started probably about 5 minutes ago. 5 minutes remaining in this one, and tire conditions not going to improve, and his Case encountering traffic here. Pretty unusual to see back markers in F3 competition, that driver getting out of the way, but it is possible for traffic to play a role here in this critical last 4.5 minutes. You got to nurse the tires, get the car back across the track, and that little encounter appears to have impacted Jason Green a little bit more. I think that gap was about 2.5 seconds, now stretched to 3 as Green had to work his way through that back marker. So Case enjoying about a 3-second gap with 4 minutes remaining. That's going to be, I'm going to say, about 3 laps remaining in this one, and what has been a very entertaining finale.
Oh, it has been a banger of a race. I mean, we haven't seen them battling up at the front, but Stephen Case is the original alien for a very good reason. Super, super quick driver, militarily consistent as well. Just some fantastic performances from him. But everybody else who's been involved in battles has treated us to a good show. And speaking of, Adam Duvall trying to sweep around the outside of Jose Navas, heading their way off through the turn. That's nearly going to end in a coming together on multiple occasions. It nearly ends in maneuver, but not yet. Navas still holding his own on the outside. Jason Green gonna have to dive out of the way. That could have ended in tears with the green and purple car and the green and black car coming together. Navas diving out of the way. Green with a bit of a wiggle. So tricky to try and deal with the lap traffic in these F3s. It being an open wheel car. A little bit of contact, and they're gonna get air.
And Green and Paborji just being abused by backmarkers here. And, you know, those two cars are fighting. They have a right to do it. The blue flag does not mean pull over into the grass. But, my goodness, look at that gap now. A couple things have happened here. Steve Case has been able to gap Jason Green up to about 5 seconds. And hitting that traffic has allowed Paborji to get right up on Green's bumper. That gap now 0.5. So, competition now up front after not a lot of action up front. Now there is a fight for P2.
Yeah, and here we go with the battling going on all throughout this field. Duval and Navas continue to be covered by pretty much nothing. Oh, I jinxed it. Navas goes for a spin coming out of 4. That right there was a commentator's jinx, and I will deeply, deeply apologize to Jose Navas as he spins around once again with some dirt on the tires. That's going to take him out of that fight as we take a look at a replay to see what happened here. Oh, as that, I gotta say, that nearly was a multi-car coming together.
Yeah, and Navas, things just not going his way. Navas, one of the more consistent drivers in this group, but has had mighty struggles in this one. Now sitting in P18, which is a loss of 9 positions, multiple spins, and that damage to that front wing. You know that is not helping that F3 car get around this track. Meanwhile, taking a quick look back at that fight between Jason Green and Danush Paborji for P2, and Green got jammed up a little bit in traffic, but is starting to stretch that interval back out. It was 0.5, now it's 0.6, getting closer to 0.7. So Paborji may have had a crack there at Green while they were going through traffic, but needed to jump on it when the iron was hot, and Green doing a good job right now maintaining and or stretching that gap behind to Danush. And my gosh, with 1 minute remaining, we may be on the white flag lap. If we're not, we're on the penultimate lap, but coming down to the end here. And there is Stephen Case and his competitors. If you squint and look very carefully, you can see Jason Green and Paborji in the background of that shot of Stephen Case, who has absolutely dominated this race the way he has dominated the season. He has won 10 out of 11, and if he can hang on for a couple more corners here, he will have won 11 out of 12 races in this, the second season of Formula 3 racing on Sim Racers Group. And absolute hearty congratulations to Stephen Case. He has put the work in. He has showed pace. He's had circumstances where he had to show racecraft, had to drive from behind and capture that P1, and has gotten it done. And I don't see a checker right now. Yeah, so we're
so
a late white right now. So the white flag lap is happening right now, and man, there is an awful lot of white on that timing tower. Looks like our only fight right now going on between Borden and Edgar Lau. And here is Paborji. This is as close as he got to Jason Green as they fought their way through traffic. And whoop! That is how he lost him. Oh my goodness. And I know that feeling, Ron. You reel somebody in, you're close enough to reach out and touch their car. The adrenaline starts going, and just a minor mistake, and they are gone. And actually, that very costly to Paborji, knocks him off the podium. That's going to put Kalen Mikovits up into P3. And tip of the hat to Mikovits, who has showed up here at Okayama and is going to get, I think, what is his first podium here in F3.
Yeah, got to be a fantastic way to end the season for Kalen Mikovits. Feels so bad, though, for Danush Paborji. I know that feeling as he headed his way out of turn number 9, thinking, okay, I've got this. Let me try and flex my muscles and get this move done. And then you loop it, and you're raging in the cockpit like, I hope this car's designer has a very nice Christmas.
And you see Paborji still fighting for grip there. And man, I told you this track was going to be tough on tires, and it was, unless your name is Stephen Case. And actually, strike that, we even saw Stephen Case getting a little squirrely with a couple of laps remaining. So very, very tough on tires out here at Okayama. But Stephen Case has won his 11th of 12 races here. Jason Green coming across the line in P2. Shout out to Kalen Mikovits, who is, I believe, earned his first podium here in F3. He'll be followed by Poborji and Corwin, and we'll have the rest of those results for you here shortly. And looks like I don't really see any close fights happening here as the rest of the field comes through. But man, what a fantastic season it has been here in Formula 3. And I'm going to take a quick peek outside. We have a couple things going on here. We've got our normal interviews. We have an award presentation as well with Sim Racers Group. I'm going to take a peek outside, see if anybody is here yet, and not quite yet. So we're probably going to get our traditional photo opportunity at start finish with Case Green and Mikovits, and I hope Mikovits remembers since it's his first time up there. We will get that photo op and probably get some donuts out of Case celebrating a dominant season, and we'll get some interviews underway for you.
Yeah, but what a season here in Sim Racers Group, from the F4s that had so many different winners and such a compelling championship fight all the way through to the very end, and here in the F3s where Stephen Case was the man to beat from the drop of the green in round number 1 through to the fall of the checkered here at Okayama tonight. Everybody had a good season. Everybody had their good battles, and you just love to see the sense of camaraderie in the Sim Racers Group community as well. One amazing community that kind of started the trajectory that Sim Racers Group and I was going to speak there. One of the things that kind of started off the road to get to where we are right now here on SMB was the Weekend Warriors, and as someone who's commentated that community now for nearly 2 years, that's an awesome community. Sim Racers Group is another fantastic community as well. Some Weekend Warriors racers running in that are old pal Mr. Adam Thompson, Chairman Meow as we like to call him, and Jason Green as well, a standout star from the Formula V and Spec Racing Ford side of thing. Hasn't run in the other Formula cars over in the Weekend Warrior side of things in quite some time, but really proficient in these F3s. But really, all season long, it was a Stephen K show as he burns it down in style. Celebratory donuts here. He's ordering a whole dozen. I think he's earned to snack on every single one of them.
Yeah, Case showing what's left of those rear tires. Who is boss? As viewers of our F3 championship here will be accustomed to seeing that, as dominant as Case has been. And taking a peek outside, still nothing. So let's go ahead and throw those results up while we wait for our competitors to join us here in the booth. And slow motion replay of that horrid start incident there. And I know that Lau's not going to want to see that again. But here we go. Here are your results. Stephen Case has won his 11th easily. Gaudy 5-second gap back to Jason Green in P2. And congrats to Kalen Mikovits with his first podium. And if I'm wrong about that, please forgive me. I'm pretty sure that's right, though. Danush Poborji got knocked off by a late error there. Knocked out of the final podium position to finish in P4. Then it's Josh Corwin rounding out your top 5. Justin Snyder, Josh Leslie, Daniel Levivi, Aaron Van Wagner, and David Borden will round out your top 10. Borden looks like the hard charger up 7. Then it's Edgar Lau on recovery drive. He managed to claw 5 positions back to finish in P11. Then Chris Wang, Tyrone De Silva, Cookron Dillon, Alex Velasco will get you to P15. Adrian Lopez in P16. And that is the last car on the lead lap. Then you had Duvall and Novice, both usually pretty good runners, top 10 runners with forgettable outings today. And Jason Trantham, you saw him crashing right off of the start, and he may be feeling a little bit salty about Lau's failure to get off the line. And here we go. Now they are pouring in both doors here. We've got a few folks here waiting to chat with us, and we might as well talk first to the Dominator. Some people call him Kase, but he is Stephen Case, and he has won F3 both on the individual and team level in dominant fashion. So a great drive out there today, Stephen. You did a great job maintaining the gap. Didn't have a whole lot to do but stay consistent, although we did notice a couple wiggles there down the stretch. So talk to us a little bit about tire wear in the last few minutes of this one at Okayama.
Hey guys, thanks for having me again. Yeah, one. Anyway, Yeah, from the sprint, we could tell the tires were, I think it was like lap 10 or something. They really started to really come off. Like all of a sudden, just seems like they just wouldn't hang on coming through. Like turn 8 is probably the worst one, is that really long, tight hairpin, the first one. And that's where I noticed the worst of the tire wear.
Yeah, tough stuff out there, and I imagine that throughout the course of your race, you kind of had to have that in the back of your mind. But again, you were just kind of managing that gap back to green. Did a very good job with that while turning in the fast race lap of a 1:22.3. So, you know what? Firing on all cylinders all season long. You crashed out of one race at Oulton Park and won every other race here. So, true domination of Formula 3, Stephen. Congratulations on sealing it here at Okayama. Congratulations on a fantastic season. And as we wrap up, is there anyone you would like to thank or give a shout out to today?
As always, I want to thank Jason for putting on SRG, and you guys for putting on the show for the whole season and hopefully all the seasons to come. And can't wait for the next season.
Alrighty, well, we will be back here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, and looking forward to seeing you out there. And thanks for stopping by and sharing your insights with us today, Stephen.
Take care.
All right, take care. And Ron, I'll tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and grab Kalen Mikovits. You can talk to him about what I believe was his first podium out here.
Yeah, so now we got Kalen Mikovits here in the booth. Kalen, welcome in. It's a podium for you here in this race, P3 at the end of race number 2. Now, my colleague, Mr. Jared Gregory, is saying that this is your first podium here, at the very least this season. If that is the case, must be feeling pretty sweet to get that result here tonight.
Surprising, really? It's my first podium? I feel like I've been close, like really close. But never was able to reach that step. To be fair, I think this time Danush kind of handed that one to me, because he was a little bit faster. But yeah, feeling pretty good today.
See, now here's the thing. I think I said this a little bit earlier on tonight here on another SMB broadcast. I'll say it again. If someone hands you a chicken sandwich or whatever your favorite food is of choice, you're going to take that if it's freshly cooked and they haven't done anything with it. You'll take that if they hand the food to you. So Jordan must be feeling good regardless. To end the season on a high note, I want to give you the floor and kind of have you talk about the season that you've had here in the F3s.
Yeah, this season, I took a bit of a break, making some life decisions. So I wasn't able to attend the full season. And for that, I wasn't in a team, just really driving for myself. Had some good races, had some bad races, of course. This one, I think, being one of the highlights. And it's been tough, but I think there's some room for improvement for me, obviously. And going forward, I hope to really give Steven and Danush a challenge. Yeah. Sorry, Joshua. I couldn't hear myself, but yeah. To summarize, yeah, those are the main things.
Yeah, just hearing a little conversation in the production truck there. That was disturbing. First,
are we done yet? I need to get dinner. I'm hungry.
Alrighty, man. Sounds good. I think I may have inflamed that based off the chicken sandwich comment that I said a few moments ago. But Kayla, thank you for joining us here in the booth, and we'll let you give thanks or shout outs before we let you go.
I'd like to give a shout out to my girlfriend, always watching, always rooting for me, and I really appreciate that. Even when I don't finish or finish well, she's always there, so I really appreciate her. And thanks to you guys as well. You guys casted a really great race yesterday, and it was really fun to watch. And yeah, hopefully the F3 series is as exciting. Yeah.
Well, I gotta say, from my perspective, I'm not usually on these shows, at least when it comes to commentating them. I do a decent amount of production over on the F4s, but man, it's always a joy to pop in and do these shows because you have a fantastic community and fantastic races, and very happy to see you out there on track throughout this season, Caitlin. But thank you for joining us on the booth. Well done on the podium, and looking forward to seeing you out there come time for the start of Season 1, 2026.
Thanks, Rod.
All
And
right, that
right
was
there
Kalen
Mikovits.
Mikovits celebrating his first podium. And Kalen, you got to give yourself credit. Danush didn't hand that to you. You managed your tires better than he did, and you may not have had the blistering pace, but he paid for it down the stretch. So great drive by Mikovits. And what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and bring in League Administrator Tyler Hagan and also driver Danush Poborji, and going to hand the floor over to Tyler. Tyler, good evening. Thanks you for joining us here in the broadcast booth, and I understand you have an award presentation for us tonight.
We sure do. As Jason would say, happy Wednesdays, guys. Glad to have you with us, and glad to be back in the broadcast booth for this. If our viewers tonight watched the F4 race last night, then they're going to know almost exactly what I'm going to say. We lost a member of our SRG family tragically earlier, way too soon in his life, and his name is Billy Campbell Peach. And Billy is just the embodiment of the gentleman racer, but he was also insanely fast, but just the sweetest guy and the most respectful driver any of us had ever really seen. And in his memory, every year for every season, for the F4 championship and the F3 championship, we award the Billy. This is the most prestigious award that SRG has, and what makes it so prestigious, it is voted on by the community. And for the 2025 Season 4 F3 Championship, this year we have Danush Poborji. Congratulations, Danush.
Thank you so much.
All right, Danush, if you watched last night, you know what comes next. Speech.
Sounds good. Well, first of all, thank you to everybody and the voters, because it was voted by the racers. So that's a nice vote of confidence. You go wheel to wheel with them. And then honestly, very much so a big honor by being bestowed this, because first of all, I never met Billy, didn't get the chance, unfortunately, but through Jason's stories and Tyler's stories and Adam's and everybody else's and how they talk about him, he almost is like recreated for me, so brought to life in a way. So it was very honored and surprised to get it, and then to get that and be embodied and thought of in the same vein or even room as that, it's very, very it's very meaningful and honorful. So I really appreciate it. And so yeah, I'll try and drive to that award next year again, and we'll go from there.
All right. Well, and you have had a very strong season here in Formula 3 by my count. Looks like you've picked up 6 podiums in 12 events and barely missed out on this one. So you put together a very, very good season. Congratulations on that. Congratulations on the Billy Award. And as we conclude, is there anyone you would like to thank or give a shout out to today?
Yeah, pretty much everybody. You guys, of course, always SRG and SMB, amazing. And then Jason, Tyler, Alex, and everybody else putting on it. I didn't think I would have this community, or I didn't think I would have this much fun just buying a sim literally like 12 months ago. So very, very nice community, and I'm excited for next season. And then thank you to my co-residents who watch, my coworkers, and then my bosses too. So very nice of them, and they always come up and talk to me about it, which makes me feel good.
Awesome. Well, congratulations again on the award, on a fantastic season, on your P4 tonight, and we look forward to seeing you compete again next season.
Sounds good. Thank you guys so much. Love it.
All right. Take care, Danush. All right, that was Danush Poborji. And folks, while you're sitting there staring at your phone, computer, or TV, I want you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Make sure you subscribe to Slow Motion Broadcasting and hit the notification icon so that you don't miss any of the action. And speaking of action, this coming weekend, absolutely action-packed. Our Weekend Warriors Formula Vs will visit Brands Hatch on Saturday, and our Weekend Warriors Sunday doubleheader will feature Formula Fords at Watkins Glen, Spec Racer Fords at Winton, and rounding out a packed Sunday of competition, XSLR will appear at Echo Park, and Liberty Bells will be at Okayama. So folks, that is going to wrap up tonight's show and the latest season of Sim Racers Group Formula 3, with special thanks to Jason Cotcher and the Sim Racers Group for their continuing support of Slow Motion Broadcasting. I am J.R. Gregory. On behalf of myself, my partner, Racing Ron Mons, and our producer, Joshua Wilkie, That's right. It's the dream team. And everyone here at SMB, thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your day wherever you are, and hang in there, baby. Friday's coming.